Good evening, good evening. Today is September 27th, 2023. The time is now 6:39. This is the meeting of the Police County of Prince George's County, Maryland. I will call the meeting to order at 6:40 p.m. And I will go around and take the roll. If you are in person, just say present. If you are participating in the meeting virtual, just say present virtual. Carlo?
Here.
Yeah, I started with you. Mrs. Ridley?
Present.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Mr. Melton?
Present virtually.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Ridley. Mrs. Springs?
Present.
Mr. Bergamini? Mr. Bergamini?
Present.
Thank
Sorry,
you,
didn't
sir.
hear you.
No worries. Mr. Jones?
Present.
Mrs. Bryant? She is here, but she's getting her computer worked on. Dr. Coleman? But she's getting her computer worked on. Mr. James? Absent. Mr. O'Neill? He's here, but he's getting his computer worked on as well. So we do have quorum tonight. Go ahead and start with our agenda. Approval of the minutes next up. Did everybody get an opportunity to review the minutes on February 22nd? You didn't? Thank you. Oh, okay, thank you.
Is these the ones that were
In the package, yes, sir.
Yep, okay.
Yes, sir.
I don't have the minutes since I'm not present. If they can be emailed to me, I can review them quickly. Otherwise,
Okay.
I'll have to abstain.
So let's try to see if we can email them to you. Yep, thank you.
She was just sending a message saying that his, notice that he was coming late.
Okay.
After I did all this printing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll send them to you, Mr. Melton. We'll wait, no problem. So how about this, if it's okay, if we can move, or do you want to give him opportunity to review the minutes? To move on. But everybody can read it, because I think Daniel's reading them too, so, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
We should move on because we got a long agenda.
Okay. So we'll do that, and Mr. Melton, when you receive the minutes, if you could just let us know in the chat, we'll go ahead and stop and come back to the minutes, if that's okay, sir.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So let's, Mama Jo, would you like to?
Yeah, the strategic plan is complete. I'll just, turn it to Denise I think it, I'm not sure that everybody received the document itself in enough time, right, Denise, to be able to review it, so. So we will, it's completed, so we will put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I'm sorry, if I can go back, you have with the minutes the action items. I looked at it, I think there's a more up-to-date, but it has most everything in it, so if you want to review that, you'll have most of the action items.
All right, cool.
Didn't you have the electronic copy of those minutes?
Okay, so we're going to, okay. Come back, action item, I'm sorry, I was writing.
So look for it, I guess I'm saying, look for the updated one in your
Email, okay. And that's on the action items, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Because I can tell this isn't the most updated one.
Okay. Okay, did you wanna get to the, strategic plan document too?
So which one?
Strategic plan?
That's what I mentioned. The strategic plan is done. Denise is going to send it out tomorrow, Denise, or?
Once I send it back to you and you do your final two, I'll send it out.
All right, so we'll get that in the email as well. All right, cool. Perfect, who else was? Mr. O'Neill, wait.
You got it straight?
Cool.
Yes, I was the guinea pig. It's right after, yeah. Ooh, sorry,
Whose phone is that?
that's mine, I'm sorry. And what's so bad about it, it rained before the meeting, I said, ooh, I'm
Oh, let me
glad
turn
to
mine
know to
off.
turn it off, and didn't.
Yeah, let me turn mine down. Oh, it is. Thank you. All right, so then moving on to the next agenda item, will be the outreach update. Mr. Sanchez?
Sure. So, I know we've had a lot of discussions about outreach to the community. We asked for, I know the chair had asked for some information from the Office of Community Relations. They got back to you with
Yes.
some information. A couple members provided, some recommendations. And so, I'm putting together a list and gonna make a recommendation. And basically, I think because it's most of the way through the year at this point, the best way that we can hit it is, you guys know that there are, coalitions of civic associations in the counties, south, central, and north. And so that might be our best plan of strategy. So our strategy is gonna be to, I've reached out to the presidents of those three to start setting up times that we can go present to them. And then from there, we can then, pick a couple other groups that have been suggested, and we'll kind of start at the very top with the biggest organizations, and then trickle it down so that we're geographically, kind of hitting different areas of the county with outreach. And so when that happens, we're going to basically, group people up. So depending on where you live, there'll be a couple of you that'll go to the meeting. Ms. Bryant has been working on a presentation that she sent out that we're gonna finalize. So that way, everyone will have the same presentation. You'll have a buddy with you in case anything, goes off the rails, or you get any questions or anything. Between two or three of you, you're able to handle that. And that way, we can really get our presence out to the community, just to show our face, tell people what we're doing and all that. So at the next meeting, you'll have a document from me that'll kind of have the outline plan, the dates, and the teams that we'll be sending out there.
By the next meeting? Okay.
Yes, sir? You gave me the eyebrow.
All right, cool. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. The AHB app.
I'd ask questions without seeing the document that you haven't done yet, so I don't want to. Without seeing it.
You'll have it. I just wanted to make sure we got an
We'll
update.
make it.
Yeah, just want everyone to have an update that we are moving on that, so we'll have something pretty tangible to take a look at the next meeting.
And then even, speaking about the outreach, part of it, if I may, I, took the Citizens Police Academy in 2017, and so the, instructor asked me to come speak as an alumni, speak to the new members. And so I did mention that we're looking for AHP members, and so I think I handed out like 10 business cards for them to submit their interest, and I'll forward that to Denise. So that was pretty much it, and the interest was huge. And they had a class of maybe like 21, so almost half of the class was interested.
This is where?
At the, Citizens Police Academy for Prince George's County.
Gotcha.
It's a class that Prince George's County Police Department gives, which is good. And they're supposed to be working on some training, for the Police Accountability Board. It's kind of condense it, because that training is, I think it's 12 weeks, so of course, we can't do 12 weeks, so they're gonna put something together. So I did speak to the instructor, and they'll take care of that, they'll do that. And moving on to the next agenda item, excuse me, what it is, the AHV applicants and selection process. We do have, I think 32, applicants, which is really good, but I think that we should, revamp the process. And so I've asked Dr. Coleman if she would chair a committee to review the, applications and submit 10 names to us. We won't be able to get anyone, by the October 15th training deadline, but I think one of the things that we can do to pick the best people, we need to make sure that the process, is fair and equitable and everyone. We just don't want to rush people through it. And so once that committee, whoever wants to join that committee, comes back, we'll take a look at those selections and move forward from there in the creating the voting process, and then call them in. One of the things I think that we should move towards now is in-person interviews. And we have to change the questions, in my opinion. So we need to revamp the questions, have the in-person interviews, and then whatever the committee selects, we'll go with that. Yes, ma'am.
You asked me last meeting to get, some information from Miriam regarding the process, and I'm gonna, pass this around to Dr. Coleman, because she's sharing it, but I did get information on the questionnaire
Okay.
and, the vetting questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Question.
Yes, sir.
How will the, selection to the subcommittee, is it a volunteer basis, or is that gonna be now, or at the next meeting, or how does that process work?
So whoever wants to volunteer for that, I think that they can go ahead and just say, I'm interested in it, and shoot the whole team email. See Mrs. Springs' hands jump up real quick. She's volunteer. There's two, going. Okay, cool. So,
I think for the vetting process.
So I wanna make sure Tamika and Daniel both.
So far, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
I know they taking minutes, so I wanna make sure they saw that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Do like that.
Yeah, you're right. But she did this too.
Right.
She did that too. All right. Did Mr. Melton get the minutes? Were you able to send it? So I'll take that as a no? Okay. Oh, I just went over it. Thank you. Mr. Jones, sorry, sir, jumped right over you. You're on the agenda.
No worries.
I know.
I think it was in the packet there for folks. This is the draft of the form that you would submit after you attend an event. On the one side is, just the form itself. On the back side, it has the italics, which kind of specify, to provide a little, direction on what goes in which section, why those would be there. So, take a look. Any suggestions, any recommendations? That's pretty much it. Just to use after you go somewhere to give us an idea of what happened, who went, and, how to keep track of some things.
Okay, and this, you have it electronically, Will, too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Man, you wrote an app for that, too?
No, I don't know about that one.
I just had a question in reviewing it.
Okay.
Great job, by the way. I just had a question on the event summary.
Yes.
Just clarification when you meant by any and all comments. I don't know, just.
Yeah, no.
Could be something on just the, that's just so, it needs to clarify.
No, I was just trying to basically make it just as understandable as possible that in the summary section, whatever insights you had or whatever you saw or you took away from it is what goes in there, right? There's not necessarily focus on this aspect of it. Whatever your experience was and whatever your takeaways from that event was, any and all comments or insights or perspectives that you may have had in that experience, just throw it in there. That's just, kind of what I meant by that.
Danny, I have to use
Oh, absolutely.
No,
That's,
for you.
she filled it out.
Oh, to me, Danny. Oh, my fault.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what Danny. Yeah.
One of you guys need to change your name, that's what.
No, we don't.
Oh, you Danny's weird.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, I like that.
So, we'll take a look at that, and then, we vote to use that, then, we can look at it now, and if you wanna vote to move forward to use it, then we can do that.
Yeah, and, Ms. Marshall Ridley, she, got to use the template itself, so if folks wanna take a look or pass it around and take a gander, feel free if you wanna see it. This is just the form she filled out, like, as she, went to an event and used it.
Oh, okay,
So just an idea of what it might look like.
okay. She gets a gold
Thank you for
star.
bringing that. Yeah, thank you for bringing that.
So I got one thing, I guess, I did the ride along too, was it 2 weeks ago, whatever? I said I did the ride along, it was the 29th.
Okay.
So you want me to fill one of these out, you're saying?
Yeah, I think it shouldn't take too long. I think it's, pretty straightforward. If you feel like it'd be beneficial to, report to the rest of the board, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good way to keep the record of what we have done as well, too. Thank you, Daniel. So, do we wanna look, yes, ma'am?
So have we adopted the form?
I'm getting ready to talk about it right now. Yes.
Yeah. So she had a form earlier, didn't I give you a form,
That was a request form?
no,
Yeah, you sent me an email, I haven't opened it yet.
okay, what I did, of everything, with the officer and all that kind of stuff already on that form that she had, so. But this form will take in place of that form, am I right on that?
Yes, for moving forward, this is gonna be for anything for outreach and things that we've done, yes. So,
There's a ride-along form, I think, is that?
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
oh, okay, you're talking about ride along, I was confused,
I think
I'm
you still,
So this
you have to do that for
So
the
ride-alongs
don't
and
you?
everything else go on this form, is that what you're saying? But this is for meeting, outreach, or anything, this form here.
Point of clarification, the ride-along form gets submitted before you would, do the ride-along, it's like a submission? Yeah, so this would be.
Ride-along request form.
Yeah,
That's a
so this
request.
would be for any completed events, like after the
Sandy
fact.
knows,
Yeah.
This is
you
an
gave us
after
something.
action form that basically says,
Yeah,
I
but
went
on
out there
that
and I
form,
did
it
this
also has
for a group.
officers and all that information that you can fill out just like this, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, the ride-along form is after post-ride-along, so there's a request, and then there's the form that you complete after you've actually done the ride-along.
Right.
So I think which is different from this one. So I think the question Mr. O'Neill is asking is if this form will then replace the post-ride-along
is
form.
that
a
their
department
form? Whose form is that one?
It's our form.
It's our form too?
Yeah, it's our form.
In case of ride-alongs, I say we
We
just
adopt that.
keep it.
I think we did adopt it.
No.
No, we didn't?
Yeah.
Well, it's like that optional.
so we can
All right.
make a decision on this form tonight.
Because I just said, yeah.
Now we know where we are.
Yes.
Can you ask them to speak up, and it's kind of hard to capture.
Okay, so if we can speak up when we're speaking, but one important thing, if we can cut off the side conversations, because it makes for a bad, listening experience for those who are virtual. And probably turn our phones off, no, I'm just. Okay, so, do we want to take an opportunity to review the form, maybe use it online and kind of mess around with it, or are we in a position tonight to vote whether or not we want to use this form?
Do we vote on it?
Yes, thank you. Okay,
That was,
And if we want to come back later and change it, we can, but I think,
yep,
so I move that we vote on the form as is.
okay.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Springs,
Daniel
seconded
Bergamini
by...
seconded the motion.
Okay, hold on. Motion made by, I know your name, by Mrs. Springs, seconded by Danny Bergamini. All in favor to use the form that was created, for the Police Accountability Board, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was, we heard, so unanimous, Ms. Springs stepped out. I mean, not Ms. Springs, right. Ms. Bryant stepped out. So, we had everybody except Ms. Bryant vote yes.
This is the form right here.
Oh, let's see that. Okay, yeah, it says ride along form, yeah. Excuse me, Mom, I'm sorry. Yeah, that'll be good.
Is that gonna be used still for ride-along?
I think so. I think we should still continue to use that.
This form is gonna be used for, if we do outreach, any other NAACP, all that kind
Yes,
of
sir.
stuff, everything.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Daniel, again.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Are they back? It says he's ready
Well, maybe it was his,
go
I
back
don't
to
have
the.
Huh?
For what would we use this?
Oh, they
The right along.
hadn't even sent them out
They
until
haven't.
Sam said that in.
Information being used by the
So,
PA.
all right.
It's not a criticism, it's a genuine question.
Just for, I guess, knowledge, just to have,
Tracking purposes.
tracking it, yes, thank you. To track our ride-alongs and things that we noted that was notable, which, since from the I have participated, everything is notable, right? Doing the ride-along, like everything is, even the traffic stops are, yeah, for tracking purposes, right, I think.
Don't we already have the request form that, the log or somewhere that annotates or log somewhere that the person went on a ride along?
Nope.
Is there,
No.
did I fill out that form? I can't remember, I was like, for the pre-ride-along, like before you go,
Yes.
is there a
So
form?
for
Like,
any law enforcement agency, you're gonna sign a waiver and
Waiver.
an application, that
Thank
goes
you.
to the police
that
department.
goes, yeah,
The form that we have is a tracking form, so you can say how many, how many hours you spent, who you went with, are there any recommendations, did you see any trends?
That's what this is.
That's what that
That's
is,
what
that
that
is
is.
after your ride along.
after.
Okay, cause I'm getting ready to go on one, so I already have that form, right, for,
I believe you submitted yours?
If I'm understanding correctly, at some point, we would review these, say, members have identified these issues or seen these issues with their own eyes, so we should talk about those.
There's a spreadsheet, so when you do
Okay.
your
Okay, there's a
spreadsheet, you're gonna
spreadsheet.
turn that in, I put Dr. Coleman's, feedback onto that spreadsheet.
That's an answer.
Yeah, but also, the waiver we give to, didn't we leave something with?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can give feedback to the police department, PPP, also
When you sign the
has
waiver,
feedback.
yeah, right.
Yep.
I'm getting ready to.
Yes, there's a free art.
Okay, I'm
Do
sorry.
we maintain these records in some place?
Yes.
Or are we required to? Okay.
And in the team shoulder.
Oh, yes, so one vote again. So, Ms. Bryan, did you get an opportunity to see Daniel? You did? So he had voted, to use it. Did you want to vote to use the? Okay, so it's unanimous. Every member voted yes. Thank you. All right, and I want to, go back real quick. I know that we probably have some, visitors. So at this time, if I can pause for a second, if there's anybody that is, reviewing the meeting or attending the meeting, if you wanted the opportunity to identify yourself and just speak and say hello, we'll give you that time now. You can come off mute.
Hey, this is Sergeant Chandler with the Prince George's County Police Internal Affairs, the Administrative Hearing Board Coordinator.
Good evening, Sergeant Chandler. Thank you for participating, sir. Now, okay, cool. Good, thank you. Let me see what was next up, so. At this time, I want to take an opportunity to pause the recording. I have some things I want to address with the board, so, Ashley, if you can pause the recording for a second.
are you gonna come back?
Yes.
to this one?
Yes, please. So at this time, I'm calling a recess to the board for a minute. There's some things that I want to address with the board. We'll come back after that. And so if you could just wait, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, we'll come back and we'll resume the meeting. Okay.
Me too.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I want to go into a closed session to discuss some personnel issues with the board. And so, if anybody can make a motion so we can go into closed session.
I move that we go into closed session.
Second.
Oh, my. Yeah, 14 seconds. Okay, so motion made by Carlo and seconded by Dr. Coleman, to go into closed session. All in favor to go into closed session and discuss a personnel issue with the board, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. All right, let me read the closing statement. Give me a second, please, so they can hear. No worries. So, going to read the closing statement closing statement. So, today's date is, September 27th, 2023. The time is now 7:12 p.m. The location is 9200 Basil Court in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Purpose to go into closed session is to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, and any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. At this time, we are in closed session. You can pause. Okay, we are back into open session. Thank you. The time is now 8 o'clock on the nose. Going back into the agenda, but I do want to address, there was a question that was raised. Mr. O'Neill, can you, ask your question again, sir, or your comment again?
I was saying I was a participant in the HB 670 works group meeting, and it was stated that this board reviewed, seen 83 cases.
Okay.
And I haven't seen reviewed, reviewed only 5 that I've seen, that we had got, that we received.
Okay.
That's what my.
So you want to know, so Denise, you have a response to that?
The response that I gave yesterday was that we had, that the PAB had received 83 cases from the ACC, and that those had been placed in the case file for review.
Okay.
And that remains the truth.
Okay. And I know that there were some, IT issues trying to access that, and that has since been corrected. So we do have access, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to go review those files, those 83, correct? Or whatever the number is.
And one of the things that's happening tonight was that so you could, 2 things, so that you could actually get into those environments when you were here. So you get your VPN and you can go into it. Candy was kind enough to put it. We had a problem with IT, a long-standing problem with trying to security state. We decided to forget forget that, because that was tying up everything. So we moved them on to another drive. And then we put all the cases in the drive. So we have received 83 cases from ACC, and those are in the drive available for you to look at and
Okay.
I'll ask you a follow-up question to this. This is a point of clarification. This actually is from your remarks, had you been in the.
I can't hear you.
No, this is from the remarks from the Health, Human Services, Public Safety Committee, meeting the other day. I think it was mentioned that the ACC has reviewed or completed 116 or something along those lines, 19 cases, and we've received, but pending review, 83. The discrepancy in numbers there, is that just like a procedural thing? Is that like?
It's a procedural thing. They have to, once the case is done, there's still some notifications that need to go out. So they're done with it on their end, but the notifications still need to go out to the various entities. Once those receipts come back, the case is then packaged up and put into a format so that you guys can answer it. So
Gotcha.
there will always be discrepancy from the cases that you guys receive versus
what they've
what's
completed.
done
Yeah,
with the ACC.
Okay.
Those numbers will never match.
Cool, yeah, no, thank you for the clarification, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Thank you. All right, cool.
Follow-up question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Looking for clarity. So, do we have the 83 cases? Are they accessible to us now?
Denise?
I did
Do we have are the 83 cases accessible by the members of the board?
Yeah, and the folks, last week we gave you procedures on how to get into
Access.
the folder, access to the folder. They're in those folders.
Okay.
Do you have your laptop by chance? Oh.
I have it, I accessed that, I only found 29, that's why I was just trying to understand
Okay.
the 83.
Okay.
I've only found 29 files.
So can we, can you pull it, would you mind pulling it up and have Denise take a look at it?
We'll wish. All right.
If you, yeah, if you don't mind. All right, cool. Oh, and moving on to the next. Oh, did you do it at home, Mr. James?
I went in through the VPN to make sure,
Okay.
so.
He might not be able to pull it up here if he didn't go to the IT.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right, cool. So, all right, cool, thank you. Moving on to the next item, I don't know if I spoke about the AHB applicants and selection process, I think I did, Dr. Coleman, okay, cool. Questions regarding the ACC recommendation, we received, 127 questions from 2 people. So I'll be I did not.
2 people, you said?
Yes, from 2 people. 2 people submitted questions, and it was 127. I did not have a chance to look through all of them, and so we'll probably, you want to send those, we want us to send them out, Carla, you think we should send them out?
I think it would be, so I reviewed some of the questions already, and so just my feedback, and I know you had some specific questions, and I think it's a broader conversation that we're gonna have to have, but I think some of the questions that you're asking, I think are more useful for us to start asking of departments as the board. Like, I think there's some questions about SRO policies and trainings that are available, and that's really in our purview, I think, to us ask that question, versus the ACC is just making a recommendation that comes to us, and then their expectation is, and that, I think this is important to clarify, so those ACC recommendations come to us, for us to then make that recommendation in our document. So the question should be to clarify their recommendations. I think there were a few questions in which you wanted you wanted to know more information regarding the topic that they covered. And I think that's fully appropriate for us to maybe draft letters to different departments and say, hey, what training do SROs go to? Like, that's our work, right? Instead of it being a question that goes back to the ACC, because really all they're doing is reviewing cases and then making recommendations based off of their end of the process. So that might be useful if you guys want to go back, and take a look at those recommendations. If you have questions about clarifying their recommendations, I think that's the better way to put it. We wanted questions that clarify if there's something that's not clear about their recommendations. But I think there's a lot of things here that are useful that I want to know, that I think we should have I want to add that in the future meeting to the agenda, because I think we can draft some letters to, for example, Prince George's Police Department, and start asking questions for them to send us policy and training questions. I think there was questions about, weapons, I believe, in here. Like, I reviewed a bunch. There's just a bunch of questions in here. So I think I want to separate that out, and I want us to have a conversation about the things that are appropriate for us to do as a body and get more clarification from the departments, as opposed to throwing it back to the ACC, because I don't think that's in their purview, really. So that's why I kind of want to go through the questions again and separate some of those things out. So if there are things that need to go back to the ACC, we can certainly do that, to ask for clarification. But I think there's a lot of really useful stuff here that I would like for us to take on and
Move
start
forward on,
requesting ourselves, yeah.
Okay.
Can these questions be distributed to the board?
Sure.
Yep, that's what we did, yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay.
See, man, you think alike, man.
I have them here, do you want me to put them there?
Oh, if they want the hard copy, yeah. They want the hard copy, yeah. You want hard copy, Andy? You know, okay, go, make it happen. Make it happen, okay, thank you.
Yeah, the 2 pages,
Okay, oh, two pages and pass it on? Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So we'll pass that around and people take a look at that. Can, we go ahead and move, next item is the annual report, update for discussion. Oh, Jill, anybody, Denise, do you have any updates?
I don't have any updates from anyone, I don't have any report feedback from
And it's gonna, each, if you know the sections you are doing, it might be, if by the next meeting, ask questions about how that might,
that section.
yeah, and maybe I ask Mr. Vice Chair and Mr. Chair about the format,
Of the
the way you all divided the sections, but didn't necessarily say what the format
I think
should
that's
look
what we're
like.
saying we did.
Yeah, we can do it right.
Yes, ma'am, we will.
Yeah.
I'll call you this weekend. Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Review of rules and procedures.
I don't know if this is gonna be an opportune time to start that.
Okay, so do you wanna table that?
and
Yeah,
move on to
we could.
announcements?
Okay, yep, and we can do that. Yeah, I had something, but, all right. So we'll table that. One thing that, Mr. Vice Chair and I, we were discussing too, so we understand it, I think, to put time limits, times on the agenda, so everybody will understand, and we'll stick to that, and we'll just move it. But I think it'll help us get through things, and based off of what we discussed tonight, we'll understand that we need to stay to that, we need to be respectful of everyone's time as well, so. We'll start putting that on there, and if anybody has something that they think, we'll probably send out, if you wanna add it to the agenda, then just shoot, Carla or myself an email, and we'll make sure that it would get it to Denise, if you wanna put something on the agenda. Okay, so, yes, Denise, we'll go, moving on to new business. Oh, none. Announcement.
Before we go to announcements, could I offer something to go into the new business for the board to discuss?
Okay.
Well, I guess actually technically might be old business. What I brought up, last week in terms of the letter, but just wanted to bring that up for discussion, to the board.
Okay, sure.
Okay, great. Let's get rolling. So I have a memo I prepared just to pass around for folks, have something to follow along with, as I'm going on with this. Just focus on the old business piece, and not the new business. We'll try to save some time, so I'll be on the back end. But, as I mentioned before, right, the idea of the letter, or letters to, either PD, or Prince George's County Police Department Chief, or, even other department chiefs, right, the idea that, there are certain opportunities for us to inquire, kind of, the Vice Chair said, to inquire at the current policies and practices that exist, in the departments and how they, interact in certain situations. And so, again, just a reminder that this conversation initially was sparked by two particular events that, garnered a lot of coverage, at a local, state, and national level. One being the viral video of the officer, which we all are aware of. Another being, the case of retaliation against whistleblowers in, Prince George County Police Department. That was from a instance in 2020 that's been, I think, recently resolved. But yeah, so I think that, the legislation that established us as a body gives us, a responsibility to make policy recommendations, which we're all aware of, which is the point of our report at the end of the year. And so part of doing that is the need to understand current policies and have them explained by the departments, those bodies, and those chiefs. And that is crucial in achieving this goal. And I think this will allow assist us in our ability to provide these recommendations in our report. And so I still believe that a letter will be warranted, again, not referencing specific instances. I think we made it clear that we don't want to play a political game or get involved in highlighting things that don't need to be highlighted. But I think a letter focusing on some of the policies or practices that were highlighted as potentially flawed in these cases, I think is fair game. And so that's where some of these questions come from, which I've listed just as an examples and things I think could be included. Questions around suspension policies, around policies to deter negative or behaviors that are detrimental to the community, and what are the ways that the department tries to hold police officers accountable, right? If you have a officer who's suspended multiple times, has multiple offenses, how do you as a department reason through their level of involvement on the streets or with members of the community, knowing that they have certain histories? And so I think these are policy questions that departments either have or don't have in place, that PGPD either has or doesn't have in place. And so I think they're fair questions within our purview, that allow us to get a better idea of, kind of where we're starting at the least for some of the policies and recommendations that we're trying to make.
Okay.
And that's kind of my piece on that.
And you said to disregard the new business piece though, right?
Yeah, new business will be, we can do that at a
All right.
different time, yeah. I
So,
wanna be
Mr.
respectful
Vice Chair, you have anything?
No, I think, I think this is what I was referring to earlier,
Yeah.
right, is we have, as a board, we do have more power maybe than we think we do. And as part of doing the annual report, this is part of the work that we need to do, but obviously, as you stated, right, it has to start from us. So I think, with the chairs, we could kind of create an ad hoc subcommittee maybe to put together a letter. I think there were questions and some information for Mr. James's questions as well that we could throw into a letter and just kind of have it be a request for information and policy from Prince George's County to start with, and then we could kind of, because the municipals and
I
everything
need to
else.
tell the municipals, it
Yeah.
can be a template that goes out to
So we
multiple
can,
departments.
so we can kind of refine that a little bit. So if the chair would allow, we can form an ad hoc committee.
I mean, we can do that, but one of the things I don't think that we should do is to make, predetermined assumptions. We have to understand that there is a process, and I think part of our responsibility is that if the process doesn't work, then there's a policy recommendation that we need to look at and, suggest. And so, I don't want this to get into a thing where people say, well, it's because my video was not viral.
No, yeah,
I don't get the
completely understood.
response, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm thinking that, there were people who probably had, allegations or legitimate complaints, that did not garner that thing. And one of the things I don't want people to start doing is like, look at my eye. Why don't you move this forward? You need to understand this. I believe, and we can have this discussion, that the process needs to play itself out, and then if it's not working, that's where we say, okay, there's an issue here. But if we're looking at the things that, has happened, I think that things that has happened so far were correct, in my opinion, right? So I just wanna make sure that we're not being moved by something simply because it became, a video that became viral, and that also, that what about the people who were harmed who didn't have a video that went viral, right? So that's the issue that I'm concerned about, but.
And to clarify, that's the reason I would want to form an ad hoc subcommittee, so that we could draft a letter that is really just about getting information and asking for policy, right? Because I think we can see some of the things, but there are some policies, especially with internal things, that we don't know how they operate and how they handle things.
Okay.
So, to me, the letter would really be, hey, we're doing our annual report, and here are some policy questions that we have that we'd like to have clarified for us. And it's gonna not just be these things, but like I said, there's some questions in those questions.
Okay.
So it would just be a general, hey, here's some information that we need that'll help us as we then look at all the cases that we get, right? This is gonna help us say, okay, so this is what they follow, this is what the process led, this is, especially when we start getting, one of our concerns, right, is that we're gonna have officers who are repeat offenders.
Right.
And so we need to know what their internal policies are and how they handle
So we
that in the past.
Got you.
And
Okay.
if that means, do they keep them, he's asked a question, right, are they on beat, are they interacting with
Right,
community members, are in desk work? And so those are internal policy things that we could ask.
They can apply to
That-
every case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that would be,
Okay.
The point I brought up, that was more personally, like, it sparked my initial interest,
Gotcha.
right, in it, but the questions are broad policy
Gotcha.
questions, not referencing.
Yes, ma'am, Mrs. Camp.
No, I was gonna say, when you talk about subcommittee, that might, Mr. Chair, be that was not one of the subgroups,
right.
and we had 3 people
Mhm.
on some of them, so perhaps in the context of the annual report, we should have a policy subcommittee
Okay.
that crafts the
letter, the request for information.
yeah.
James?
Oh, no, sir, please.
So, I appreciate this, and I understand the need or the desire to have the letter, but I don't know if it's more of a conversation or meeting, because we can provide here are some of the topic areas. My fear is you provide a letter and you ask about these policies, you get back a response letter and the attachments, which have all the policies. But I think what you're asking is, how do you put this policy in practice? And so I don't know if it's the letter that asks for the policies or if it's a letter requesting a meeting. And that, I get the sense it's more of a letter requesting a meeting to have a discussion about these policies.
Okay. It could even be like a piece of, a written response could be provided as well, you know, like written comments in addition to.
Yeah, I mean, I would push back on that a little bit. I think there's value in having the policies, reviewing it, having questions based off the policies, then having the conversation. Because I think also then we can get into the minutia a little bit, right? And then have those set policies, which will also help us as we're reviewing cases to look versus explain it to me, which I think that's not what we're here for, right? We're here to. So I think the request is for information. We then as a board review it, come up with questions, and then we can have that meeting with the leadership from Prince George's County Police to start with, for example, and say, hey, we reviewed the policies, here's some questions we had for clarification, and I think that would then make that conversation much more fruitful from our end.
Based off of reviewing the policy.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Verkamini, I'm sorry. No? Okay.
I have a question. Would it be for, so this letter, would it be for all the everybody that represents, or would it just be for this particular?
I would start with Prince George's County, because I would imagine that most municipalities are gonna be reflective of whatever the county's doing, but then we have a form letter to then send out to the rest of the municipalities.
Oh, okay.
But I think the initial target has to be Prince George's County because they're the biggest.
No, I agree. I just think there should be
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that when we go for the
Oh,
policy, we have
absolutely.
something.
No, we wanna have a repository,
Right.
because we're gonna get cases from all these
Right,
jurisdictions.
yeah.
And so we wanna have a repository where we can go and look at that to give us context as we're reviewing those cases.
I also think it's great to have a meeting as well, face-to-face, and to have the policy in hand.
Yep.
So however the order is fine, but I think we need that to reference back to look to and see.
Exactly. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Oh, somebody else?
I guess I'm just figuring out the action, because I think we have a lot of questions here. Can we put a letter together and send it over so we
Yeah,
can move
yeah,
it, as opposed to the subcommittee? I understand the premise of the subcommittee, but I think we also want to get moving on something, so.
Right, so to me, the subcommittee would start working rather quickly to have a draft letter that the board could then say, okay, everyone takes a look at it. If you have extra questions that we didn't cover in this document or that are on there, then we can share that beforehand, right? The subcommittee would share that with everyone beforehand, and then have a meeting, ideally the next meeting, where we could say, hey, take a look at this letter. Is there anything you wanna add, anything else? If the board then feels comfortable, we could send it, because it's gonna take some time for them to put that together too, right? So that's.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, you gonna get that?
I was about to say, I already have the motion.
Oh,
written
my
out.
goodness.
Yeah, we can, yeah, no, if that's the case, unless no one has any additional comments, I move to establish a subcommittee to inquire on existing policies and practices, which will be a standing committee to draft correspondence between the Police Accountability Board and local law enforcement agencies of which we may have questions or require information.
You passed the bar. You passed the bar. Second, Mr. James, made by James. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That went quick.
So who's going on the subcommittee?
I'll take it, I'll be there too with you, yeah.
Oh, you said two? I like the way you said that. Yeah, he did.
I wasn't volunteering.
You were voluntold. You were voluntold.
You were voluntold.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, that was slick. That was slick. Oh, I'll be there with you. Yeah, I like that. Did I hear Ms. Springs too? I heard her. I'm sorry, okay. All right, cool,
So
great.
I wanna make sure, because I'm trying to
Writing
do
it
the
down.
action. So this is gonna be the policy subcommittee, right? Okay. And it's Mr. Jones and.
There you go, yeah. You'll be there with him.
No one
So
else,
those are the
no one
two.
else wants to join in? I'm fine.
But people don't like working with you guys or something?
We must have a reputation.
In a few months.
Okay.
So,
I have a lot of questions, so I'll jump on the subcommittee and get them out early, yeah.
Mr. James, you're on it.
There we go,
Mhm.
my man.
So can I just ask a question, 'cause you all were both, you were on the highlights, so you gonna stay on the highlights or?
Oh, yeah,
move
they're
to
with
this
Mr.
one?
O'Neill and Ms. Bryant, correct?
Yeah, you'll stay with that.
They still got
Mr.
2/3 of the
Jones?
work to do, yeah.
Is this a new
Yes.
section to the report now?
It may end up
It could
being-
be, well, we'll have to see, yeah.
So you're on the recommendations one, are you staying
Yes,
on that one as
absolutely.
well?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you'll be on two, you'll be on
Yes,
two?
ma'am.
You're on two, you know that, right? Okay.
Denise is on it too.
No,
I'm just joking, I'm.
no.
She did,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, isn't this one recommendation and policy subcommittee rather than forming another subcommittee?
They just were on different, they
Yeah.
were on different ones,
Dif-
that's what
yeah.
y'all came up with.
Yeah, and I think
wanna
it'll work
change
that
it.
way, no, I think it'll work the way that we did it, I think it'll go.
But
How it goes.
Oh, yes,
for clarity, the other subcommittee is related to the annual report. but-
Correct.
But you're saying it's ongoing.
correct,
like a
okay,
standing
right,
committee.
right.
I didn't look at it.
But I thought Mr. Vice
Yeah, but
Chair
we'll add
said
that
it
as
would
well.
come
Right.
into, that this information would be fed into the annual report,
Potentially, yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
right,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Do we have a date?
uh-oh.
Will we follow up for next meeting?
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah.
No, 'cause he was
Well, it'll
saying,
be 3 weeks, right? 'Cause it's the second Tuesday of October?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second and fourth.
I think we can have about the next week.
Tuesday.
No, Daniel can make that happen.
I'm sorry.
I'll get it drafted this weekend.
See, that's,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
what I'm talking about, I like
Knock
it,
it out.
yeah.
Yeah, so by the next meeting, we should have a draft.
Okay. And so, even if you have it before that, the next meeting, you guys can
Oh, we'll
send it out.
We'll send it
Yeah.
out to everyone, so everyone has plenty of time to review.
Daniel put a lot of pressure on you guys, said you're gonna have it this weekend.
No, I said I would, that was
Oh,
me.
okay,
I was
oh,
saying,
okay,
that's what I
okay,
mean.
okay.
I set myself up for work.
Okay, cool, all right, thank you, Daniel, again, appreciate that, thank you. All right, my agenda got buried, so, that was it, time, and it's 8:25, we're moving up on to 8:30.
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
With regard to the draft presentation, I haven't gotten any feedback from anyone, and if you'd like to get it out.
right, so, okay, so did everybody get an opportunity to look at that?
No, I just sent it to Daniel.
Oh, okay.
because I was working.
Okay, so I'll
I
send
sent it to you
it,
and-
okay, we'll send it out, 'cause I did review it and look at it.
Yeah.
I did have some questions and I wanted
Right,
to talk about, so
right.
yeah, but we'll send it out to the board. And then also, if anybody else wants to, yeah, 'cause we didn't send it out, I think it did just go to us, and I just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so I looked at
Make
it.
sure I wasn't going nuts.
Yeah,
No, no,
well, sometimes, but not this time. Right, okay,
And
so,
again, it is a draft, and I
Right.
really do want input.
Input, okay.
Because, you know, my brain's only a little bit. So please, I
Okay.
don't have an ego on this, just please just make it good.
okay, right, and it needs to be, yeah, and, so yeah, we can all take a look at that. I know that we're all talented with that, in that area, yes, ma'am?
Just for clarity purposes, are we talking about your PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
For outreach?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So, yeah, we'll do that, and then also, if I have any slides or anything, I'll send it to you first.
Okay,
Tell me what you think, but I think it's important for us all to take a look at that,
okay.
and want it to be representation of the board. But thank you for taking that on and headlining that, I know it's gonna be fantastic. So what I want us to happen is that presentation be so well that other counties can just remove Prince George's County and just say, we got something that we can go by. So let's really put our efforts into making that work, and we'll get that out to you guys today. Thank you again for that. And that's it, and so we're looking at 8:30, I know that we have a lot of other things. Denise, did you wanna move on to some of the things in the announcements?
Well, I think they can be quick, and since we got the county.
When you say quick, oh, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
since we got the county,
Did you
we
keep-
giving us a briefing on the HB 81, 23.
See what happened when you come back in the room?
Just on the old phone, the wheels of the bus go round and round. Sure, well, okay, so, very happy to announce that we now have a fully functional administrative hearing board process here in the county. Signed off on the legislation, but the policy, the internal policy on Monday. That includes the, that includes, our MOU with the state, Office of Administrative Hearings. They'll be supplying the hearing officer or the hearing judge for the appeal process. Of course, the officer of equal rank comes from the, individual law enforcement agency, and the civilian board member comes from, this body. So I'm excited about that because we are the only county that has a full process in place. I've been told that there are other counties that are doing appeal processes, but some kind of way they've maneuvered where, they've signed MOUs to go back to the old policy. I don't know how they're doing that legally, but I'm not getting into the weeds of that. But we are fully functional and ready to start scheduling, our process. I wanna say thank you to everything to the staff, for, doing the heavy lifting, getting that stuff together. Thank you to this board, for providing me with those civilian board members, which were so critical. And we're gonna get this process rolling. One of the things, and I do know, I believe it was said that you had 32, applications in the fold. There were some questions regarding, disclosures and ethics, because the way the legislation was written, the civilian board members, or the administrative hearing board was not included in the entire board process as far as mandated this, that, or the other. For example, you guys, PAB, you're required to submit disclosure forms, take ethics, same thing with ACC, et cetera. Specifically, the hearing board that wasn't a requirement. In consultation with the county attorney's office and other entities within the county, specifically, the Office of Ethics, we have the ability to create an internal policy to require that of the civilian board members. So I am definitely working on writing that policy to have our civilian board members undergo ethics training when they come on board and file the proper disclosures. And here's the reason as why. One, because it's a clean process across the board. Every board member has to go through that. I believe they should as well. That's number one. Number two, God forbid there is a conflict on their part and they rule as part of the appeal process, that gives the responding officer an out or an appeal process to get that charge actually thrown out because there is a conflict. So to make sure that the process is clean across the board, I will be, that's one of the things I would like to require for all civilian board members that come aboard, to go through disclosures and ethics. And I would also throw that caveat to have you guys consider, again, you're our board, I can't tell you what to do, but just throw that caveat out there when you're reviewing and vetting and speaking to the potential members, just please advise them that that will be part of the process, so there are no surprises when you slip that form in front of them and say you gotta fill out a disclosure form. I think it's important, and I'm just trying to make sure that the process is clean. I did sit before the council, and it was an interesting sit, I'll just put it that way, regarding some of the additional powers for the PAB. That issue was tabled by the council, which is fine. But I will just say this, that legislation or any legislation that affects this board, this body, honestly, I think you all should be involved in those conversations. So if you have future legislation come up, I would hope that you guys would at least be at the table or part of those discussions, because it affects you, it affects this office, and some of the things that may need to be done, could significantly change the way, we operate on this side. So, I'm not sure who's listening, but, again, I think it's important if you're going to present legislation that you have the party that it affects directly as part of the process. So,
Mr. Bennett,
yes, ma'am.
I also, I guess, I listened and it was interesting to say the least. But I think it raised some questions that there were certain things that to me were AG related that need to be factored. Because I could see these same type of issues repeating themselves. So it's some, I don't know, through the county attorney, I just hope that they get some clarification on what the council or can in fact do with respect to the state enabling legislation? Because I can just keep seeing it come again.
Well, I do know that one of the council persons, they did, state that they were drafting an AG letter. I believe it was said that it was supposed to be drafted before, but it was never drafted or sent out. So, I will stay in contact with the county attorney's office to make sure, that process goes through, because I think it's important. What we're doing here is a heavy lift. What we're doing here affects lives, across the county, and I just want to make sure that we're doing it right and we're doing it in a legal manner. Because again, I would hate to do all this work, put these processes out, revamp stuff based on legislation and find out that, we're going against what state law says.
Right.
So, I think it's important to have those conversations with the powers that be to make sure that we're at least at the table or have the ability to submit information to help them make the decisions that they need to make. So that said, I guess another thing as well, I want to make sure that you guys, it was said before, you guys do have a lot of power. I don't know if you really understand the power that you guys have as a board. Yes, you do have the ability to bring various departments, chiefs or whatever in to have discussions. So please, understand, the roles that you guys have in your process, because it is, again, a heavy lift. And that said, y'all don't report to me. So if there's stuff that needs to happen or needs to be done, you guys have to work that piece out. I mean, I can help guide you or give you my opinion, but again, my role is not to dictate what the board does. My role is to operate in a fashion that supports the board, and I will do everything within my power. I will make sure the staff has everything within their power to give you the tools that you need to effectively do your job. But that said, like I said, I'm here to springboard stuff off of. I'm here to answer, any technical questions that you may have. But in terms of power, you guys do wield a lot of power as a duly created board. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there, and so you just realize what you guys have. Yes, sir.
I actually have a question for the board. If we were to discuss how we go about using some of that power, how we want to create RFIs, how we ask for information, our internal processes and so forth, would that be an open session or closed session?
I guess you mean probably open session. Yes.
So if we're deciding, saying this is how we want to do this and doing our own, that would be open session.
And typically, at least for this, we've taken the position that you want 90% of everything in open session.
That makes sense. Like I said, I'm just kind of asking if we wind up having that discussion tonight, but
it's a good public
another time to say, that might be something that we talk about.
Mr. Bennett, to follow up when you said that the new process policy that you're writing for disclosure and things like that, will that apply to the already placed members of the HB as well?
I didn't vote them in, so that's something, I don't vote them in, but that is probably something that you guys can mandate as the body that put those board members in place.
Okay.
You can mandate that those disclosures and the ethics training is taken, but again, that's totally.
And I think that is something that we'll take up at the next meeting, but I think that that's very important.
So I want to make sure I understand. They are a commission of sorts, or a board of sorts, right? And so are they subject then to the conflict of interest rules of the county?
Okay, so how it was explained to me, there is a clause, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, I'll pull it, and I'll make sure I send it around. There is a clause, that, dictates those bodies that, actually offer up, decisions, institute, decisions on governance, on policy, et cetera, they're subject to, disclosures within, the code of ethics. That's the clause that covers all of these bodies, but I know that specifically in legislation, pretty much all of the boards are named in that legislation. The question was, because they're not named, are they still subject to it? So, based on, their processes, based on how they operate, yes, they are, they're just not named. I just wanna make sure it's codified.
But administratively, we could require them to be.
Absolutely, you have the power to do so, as, relayed to me by, the county attorney's office, the county attorney. You have that ability to do that, and I just think it's an important.
Absolutely. Denise?
I have, sent, emails to them requesting that they complete secondary employment, which is used synonymously with conflict of interest form for every volunteer, paid, or appointment that a position that they have.
Oh, okay.
And, so far, 3 of them. This was as of yesterday.
Okay, but I would, even though they're doing it, my suggestion, and again, my suggestion,
Make it official.
I would still make it official, so we can make sure that everybody's on the same list.
Yeah.
I would hate for new board members to come in with a different process than those that have already been
Correct.
established.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
Again, but thank you all for your time, for your service, and allowing me to talk and attend your meeting. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
One, thank you very much for your comments. I share your sentiment in, the importance of, our kind of presence or involvement when those conversations are happening. Just a question, kind of broadly, like, I didn't know that bill was going to the subcommittee, but I don't know how at the local level, like, hearing notices work. So I don't know if that's like, do I need to pay better attention, or like, if there's someone who can keep me privy to that, like, I don't know how that process works, so that's my question. Like, how would I know it's about to come up?
So let's just say, I found out about that less than 24 hours before I was sitting before the committee. So
Okay, yeah.
I will say this, if something is brought to my attention, I will relay it to staff and make sure that staff sends it out to you. I will commit to do that, so everybody is basically on the same page as soon as I know.
Yeah.
Even at the 11th hour, right?
Even at the 11th hour.
This was really good.
Right.
Yeah, appreciate that. I wasn't trying to give you more work.
No, listen.
I say give it to 'em.
Again, it's important. You guys are major stakeholders in this process, and I want you to have your voice, good, bad, or indifferent. Again, I think that's important. You guys have to have a voice in this process.
Okay, agreed. Thank you so much. All right.
Well, he covered the information I was gonna give you about the Prince George's station meeting.
Okay.
Same information he gave you on the AHB is what he presented yesterday at that meeting, and that was the only participation we had in the meeting.
Okay.
Several of you attended the work group, so you know what happened there, and there isn't a whole lot to report there. And very briefly, Tangi will talk about the spreadsheet she's created for meetings and events.
Okay. 1 second, real quick. Mr. O'Neill just had his hand up.
Now, yesterday, IG mentioned, and maybe I got it wrong, 2 new positions or something.
Oh, I'm talking about the, position that will oversee the administrative hearing board.
Okay,
Yeah.
You was talking about
They'll be in charge of
in a general clerk.
See, right now, general clerks will work within the office to help facilitate some of the stuff that you guys need to make sure that you're getting the information that you need. But we're also bringing on folks to run the board, because Andy's wearing like 17 hats right now. And, I'm trying to alleviate some of the pressure on her as well, so.
So I put down that you had 2 for PAB and 2 for AEC.
So there's a policy analyst coming here to help you guys, work on policy, and the general clerk to help, move information back and forth, make sure that you guys are updated on stuff, that you, are reminded to submit your responses when things are done, et cetera.
So the policy person is with this board, the PAB?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
They'll be working closely with you to help you craft and do the things you need to do, review policies.
That's great.
They'll be able to break it down in layman's terms so you understand it.
Okay,
And that position hasn't been advertised.
okay.
Yeah, we're in the final phases of sign off, so hoping to get it up and advertised within the next 30 days maybe. Well, I'm praying for sooner, but again, if you guys know any policy people that may want to do this, please, send them our way.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's what we're looking for that.
great. And Ms. Sandy, you have the floor. Very brief.
Okay. So, based on Mr. Armando Jones's, memo and, some of the comments that were made last week for the Highlights Committee, I went ahead and created a spreadsheet, for some of the, yeah, we'll put it down there. Thank you. This has already been filled out for a lot of the stuff that the board has already done this year. You'll see it's down here in events. I just didn't want to publicize this. So, I also had created a proposed community outreach plan. So that's gonna be in a lot of this. So I'm gonna continue to move over so you can look at some of the data fields and let me know if there's anything that you would like to have added, okay? So, for example, we can use Mr. Melton's, alpha, his sorority or his fraternity outreach. So he would just put in here the day of the request, what the invitation or the event is, what the organization is, again, based on what Mr. Armando Jones, provided in his memo, the purpose of our attendance, what type of event is it? I have drop downs, I know we like our drop down menus.
Yes, I do.
Were we invited or did we request to attend? Did we attend, yes or no? When is the event date? The location of the event, who is the point of contact, their title, their contact number, their contact email, which board members went, did staff go, did we make any presentations, were any comments made? Approximately how many people were there, how long were we there, and then with Mr. Armando Jones's, memo, we can just put it in here as a PDF form, so if you have more information that you desire, it'll be in that form.
Okay.
And then you'll have follow-up right there. Then you'll have contacts here, so if we ever want to send out a mass email about an incident, about something with our community, as we, begin to meet our stakeholders, we can put them in one file. I can follow up and send this to everybody, and again, in this first, spreadsheet here or column here, it's already filled out. I'm just not sharing it with the public,
Okay.
okay?
And I've also asked her to send this to the Highlights Committee with the information filled in, so that committee can begin to write their project and, report.
Okay.
That is so wonderful.
Thank you, Tangi. And you're right, it was brief. It was brief. I like that. Thank you. All right, cool. Like we covered some stuff. I appreciate that. This is I think this is the part of the meeting that Mrs. Springs loves the most. She usually makes this motion.
Wait, before we do that, I'll just say, I think tomorrow, the Montgomery County Police Accountability Board is having a meeting with their chiefs, in their county. I plan on trying to attend in person if possible. I printed out the event notice, so if anyone's interested, just want to put that out there in case we want, anyone feels like going along.
Thanks.
I plan on attending myself, so, yeah, that was all, now we can move to.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to be, traveling for work for a little while, so I'll see you all in December.
So this is your last meeting until then. Safe travels.
Safe travel.
Send some pictures and take pictures and,
No?
yeah, okay. Thank you, David. Safe travel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Motion made by Mrs. Springs, seconded by Ms. Bryant. I don't know what. Yeah, right. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Melton, did you say you opposed it, Mr. Melton? All, meeting adjourned at 8:48. Thank you, Ms. Have a good one, 8:48, thank you.